lastly, composite applications are beginning to add value. I recently completed a management training program in my company for 40 middle managers, and the entire training program was delivered over a blog. I never met them once, and the blog posts actually contained activity elements, exercises, and modules that they had to complete. And I used a Twitter gadget inside my blog, and the Twitter gadget was my way of communicating with them in real time, instantly. These are fascinating things, and they are a breeze to set up. That's the point I'm making. It's extremely easy to embed social interactions to bring content alive. If those of you who have seen Google's Site Wiki, it's a great tool. It's a little wiki that sits on a website, and people who know stuff, in addition to what they see on the website, can go ahead and add it to the wiki. So here's the site, and here's the little site wiki, and together that's a composite content, which is even richer than the original content. Teaming Pod is another tool that lets you embed social interactions into your training content. So if you are a learning professional, a training creator, these are some of the things you need to be aware of, and there are several technologies that you can take advantage of. And at first they may look intimidating, but let me tell you, it's never been easier to set up a learning environment or to jazz up your learning content than it is today. What does it mean for us? Let's look at some guidelines. When you agree that interactivity drives different modalities of learning, including the classroom, instructor-led training, or e-learning, or informal learning, when you consider that interactivity is at the center of making these interesting, you have to recognize that interactivity drives these differently. You cannot do the same thing in e-learning with interactivity that you did in classroom training. So here's how you choose. I have just 3 more slides, and I think you will find them useful. In classroom learning, you address the learners as a group. They're all together, and it's extremely important that they keep pace with the instructor. You cannot let anyone stay behind. So what is critical is synchronization, and this is where facilitation comes in. If I'm an instructor and I'm teaching a class, I must carry the whole class with me at the same time. So if I'm conducting a game or a brainstorming exercise or a show of hands or any other class activity, even building a T-chart, I must do that together with you. So facilitation becomes important. And group activities, like the ones I showed you just now, are a great way to embed that facilitation into your presentations. Okay? This is different from e-learning, as you will see in 1 minute. With self-paced e-learning, we have quite the opposite situation. Now everyone is learning at his or her own pace, right? Everyone need not be synchronized, should not be synchronized. However, the problem is, unlike the classroom, the instructor is absent. So the learner could easily get distracted, and the key therefore is engagement. It is important that the learner remains engaged. In a classroom, the instructor can play his role appropriately to engage learners, but in e-learning you do not have that. So interactivity with high degree of engagement is critical. That is why you need simulations. That is why you need mini games. And remember, when you say simulations, these need not be highly complex simulations. They could be mini simulations, but it's important that there be some kind of a context in which a learner can embed himself or herself and experience something. Okay? So e-learning needs engagement. And then when you come to informal learning, which is our last and third modality, when people talk to each other, they learn, right? in an organization, a lot of learning happens in the lobby or at the water cooler, correct? But then, if the interaction is not in a learning context, they may just have a peer interaction talking about something else, right? So, embedding social interaction in a learning context is very important. Otherwise, all you have is only social interaction. That's not going to cause learning. So, the example of site wiki that I cited to you, or teaming pod, that's very important. You have a structured learning curriculum, and on select pages of that curriculum, you create little social spaces where people can interact. And those interactions will be in context of what they are reading or learning. And those will be very productive interactions from a learning perspective. So, from classroom to e-learning to informal learning, the pain point shifts. And your interactivity strategy needs to address the appropriate pain point. In classroom, it is facilitation. In e-learning, it is engagement. In informal learning, it is context. So, when you use the right tools that let you do this, you will be able to address these shifting pain points, and you will be able to drive all three types of learning through interactivity. So just to wrap up, what you need to do is to identify areas of interactivity depending on the learning modality. Are you designing an instructor-led program? Are you putting together a social learning environment? Or are you designing an e-learning course? Based on that, you need to identify the areas of interactivity. List the interactivities required from, you have tools like Proactivity, Yawnbuster, Teaming Pod that give you great ideas. You may use the tools or you may not, but it's a good idea to look at what's out there for ideas at least. And then prepare guidelines for customization and use within your learning development group. Because clearly you want to make sure that you adhere to the branding guidelines, the accessibility criteria, and so on. So all that needs to kick in. And measure the enhancement in course effectiveness as well as cost saved in course creation. Once you have these interactive elements, you're clearly going to have two benefits. Your learners are going to love it, and your course creators are going to say they took less time to build these because they used ready-made interactions. So that's what I have for you. It was an incredibly short time, so I will leave a couple of minutes for questions if you have any, and I'm available to meet you right after this. We are at stand 33, Harbinger Activity. I'll be happy to show you some demonstrations as well. Thank you for your attention.